Imagine a spiritual pathway that addresses your physical health, emotional frequency, mental clarity, and spiritual well-being, all in perfect harmony. This isn't just an ideal. It's the comprehensive nature of the Goddess Emergence show with Dr. Brie Gibbs, a spiritual leader, healer, and trance medium who, alongside of Goddess Bell, the creator, and other masters, will share information never before released on the planet to help guide and evolve humanity, and along the way, heal the 4 dimensions of body, emotions, mind, and spirituality. This show is about true spirituality, offering a new earth narrative and effective path to well-being as it accelerates the journey of our spiritual evolution to keep pace in this rapidly changing world. Get ready to emerge the goddess within each of us, both the feminine and the masculine. If you have any questions about yourself that you have no answers to, this is the show for you. Let's emerge together and emerge better. Now here is your host, Dr. Brie Gibbs.
Welcome, everyone, to Goddess Emergence. Today, Natasha and I are going to get on stage together. This is a very first step into doing this different. And how do we keep it silent? Even during the holidays, when we're meeting with family, we can have a soup with friends, and like go to change through the year and have it soon, and have a view of that. You can write situations happening in this last year. And a family had found out about a friend or whatever. You know, I found out and talked about things happening. And it's like, how do you solve these problems and help others to be able to feel their inner peace within no matter what it's done? So let's get right to it. I want to talk about holding the inner peace, feeling to me, it's no matter what happens. The first thing I go to do is advise the builder. You know, I use that to help hold the inner peace. Natasha, what do you do?
So when I am negotiating inner peace, now I've had a lot of situations, like having kids at the same time my parents were passing away, having an alcoholic husband who, I call him a recovering narcissist, and I say that with a lot of love. He's struggled with a lot of things. He started drinking when he was 12, 14 years old, and doing drugs too. And so he's done a lot. And I'm 32, 34 years together with him, right? So I've done a little bit of dance. He's 12, almost 13 years sober now.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of this turmoil. And the way that I have found inner peace, and especially of late, because there's so much going into our reality. And I want to make a disclosure here that, right before we came on, Brie's, computer was having a little bit of problems. So if she's
Yes.
sounding a little muffled or something, I just want to make that disclosure.
Thank
Um,
you.
so it's perfectly imperfect. And that's this, and I love how the universe says, how do you keep inner peace when things are happening, right? And that's the thing is that I know that breath is so important. And I'm not really good always of taking breath, right? I'm not always great at taking breath, but I know enough not to hold my breath. There's that natural thing that your body does. And I want everybody to know that whatever practice you start, it's going to be a practice of perfectly imperfect until you get to that part, because the universe is one that I don't want to say challenge you, but it will show you examples. Like when you ask for patience, it'll give you lots of things to practice on.
No kidding.
You
No
know,
kidding.
and so with that, the one thing that I have learned is to become as neutral as I can, not necessarily numb, but more neutral. And that's the thing that even a couple years ago, my husband would say, I get so frustrated with you because you don't react the way I want you to react. And it's like, because I just kind of sit there and I go, okay, just become more neutral about the moment. It's like, I kind of go into, well, he's having a moment, you know, or I say, in my mind, because that's the thing is that you want your mind to do something. So like at the very part of just starting this, I would say, I'm safe, 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 I'm safe. So that, it was something that the ticker tape, could just keep
Right,
repeating.
right.
I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. And that kind of disrupts the brain from going into, well, he's saying this and da, 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 and that's happening, this happening, and if you can kind of just keep your brain a little bit more safer, and then at the same time, it's like, I trust, I trust, I trust. Yeah, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. I'm done being treated this way. I'm done being treated this way. I'm done being treated this way. Whatever it is that can quickly come to you, or whatever came to me, sometimes it was just like, I'm just done with the story. I'm done with this fucking story. And I'm sorry for swearing, but it would be the effing story. I'm done with this
I love it.
SHAT.
I love it.
It's like whatever it is, it's like, and you have to almost like, and in a way, I almost picture myself inside the tornado.
Mhm.
I do a lot of imagery. I do a lot of words, the quick words. So, sometimes I use those metaphors to help me to negotiate. So, if there's a tornado going around me, maybe I need to stand in the middle of the tornado because anytime you have a storm, the center of the storm is the calmest place.
I know the feeling.
you know and so let the storm move around you, do this thing around you. And I had this one image one time where that Ferris wheel game that it's like you get in the seats, and then as it goes faster and faster and faster, you go further and further out. And it was like, well, I don't have to be on that ride. I can actually slow the ride down. I would picture the energy around me floating that way. And then there was another thing that I would do. I mean, I literally get a lot of these images. So back maybe even 20 years ago, my husband would come in and he'd be like this on the pendulum, swinging like this,
Right,
right? He'd be so turned up, and I would be like this. And pretty soon he would be like this because didn't necessarily want to be him. I would speed mine up a little bit just to kind of meet him, but I wouldn't want to become him,
right,
you know? And then another thing that I've done is that, a lot of times we pre-think things are going to be this way. We pre-think that things are going to happen. Oh, that person's going to come home this way, or oh, work's going to be this kind of thing. It's like, and you have to be careful about what you're perceiving something's going to be.
right, right.
Right? You really have to be careful because, I would catch myself, especially in the really, I mean, I'm just going to say the very hard times when, it was a lot of verbal abuse and that kind of stuff. And he knows about this. He knows that he was this way,
Right.
and we've done a lot of healing on this because, I live with a man that did unforgivable moments, and I've had to love past those unforgivable moments. And so going into this, that, we have to negotiate that, it's like I would catch myself starting to think that he's going to come in a bad mood. And I'm like going, wow, am I perceiving that?
Right.
So there's a lot of this little bit. And so I know we got to go to break here, but, it's like there's that moment.
So I want to say something. Sometimes you get that as you and I are advancing too, right? And you get that feeling like, oh, something's wrong. You get that feeling, and we know something's coming. And it's not that we put ourselves in it all. We just put ourselves in that. And it's like, okay, but is it coming from your husband or a friend of mine or whatever? Just different situations, right? And then we find out what to and really how we do it. As you know, travel through dimensions and look at the different worlds and stuff. Things happen all the time, people. So I just want people to feel safe in their own homes. And sometimes people feel like, I'm not safe, I'm not home. And that's some of the reason about the show. Reels and try situations or whatever. And so I think we got to get them to a point where I had a client yesterday. I will pass it out. That's good. We want to get this set up. That what happened with him. And it's the lovely short story. And the thing is that how she put me on the peace to feel safe again. And so they're going to try to help, maybe have to give you some advice and help with what do you think? Everybody could put your partner?
I'm sorry, what was that? I
That's
didn't.
okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take a quick break. Yeah, back to just that. I'm sorry. Natasha and I and the Goddess Emergence. Welcome back, everyone. It's Dr. Brie and Natasha into it. Here we go. I had a client yesterday that went through an amazing, enormous project. And have permission for this. What happened was, she had really good fun. And some people in the background, she told her about her music. Then it's so hard to contact her ex-husband that she had been highly removed. And how does she find that peace within without feeling like she has to run, get up and live her life? Really good attention on this one.
We all need to be heard. We all need to be witnessed. We all need to be welcomed in. And I know for me, I had an ex-husband I didn't feel safe with either.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm talking more personal because I know that I do have clients that I help a lot with this. But I want to say that I'm talking a little more personal, and I'm not going to go too much into detail about my ex because I don't have permission. Where my husband and I, we've talked about this, and he knows that, you know, through his, healing, he talks to other people about what we've gone through. So it's a mutual thing, and I will not go into details of our relationship, but I'll give enough that people know that I actually, everything that I say, I've practiced ups and down, in and out, weaved it in, weaved it out, through what else didn't work, but because this longevity thing about being in the button, repushing the button is so important. And, you know, the client that you've gone through, I'm grateful that she heard you, you heard her, you know, going through this, because there's so many of us that go through these relationships that, oh my gosh, just the emotional struggle. I mean, so many of us don't feel safe. I mean, I had to take my name off of everything because I didn't
Right.
want him to come after me, and it wasn't that, just because he would steal things from me. He would write bad checks. He punched the wall against my head,
Your
next to my
bank
head.
account, empty your bank account when you get caught for stuff. Hey,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
There is the narcissistic attitude that is like like my ex-husband was a compulsive liar. He would believe what he said, right? And at that time it wasn't necessarily the narcissistic attitude, but he was an alcoholic, he was a drunk, he did coke and pot at the same time. So he was
Right.
feeding something. And he grew up in a dysfunctional family, loved the family, loved my mother-in-law. My father-in-law would be would be drinking until he could barely drive home,
Mhm.
you know and there's those moments where we have to find that peace. I know for me, I practice a lot. I practice so much. When I get in the car, I stop for a minute. I push that, and I don't know how many times today. We have this full moon coming up tomorrow.
Oh,
Whew, it's a cleaner. It's a literally a cleaner. It's literally cleaning out. I don't know how many people I've had to support going through old stories. Even I had a coworker that their kids got in an accident at the same age I got in an accident with
mhm.
my mom and dad. You know, and it was like, wow. The cleaning up that this full moon is trying to do to help us to move forward. And we have to really understand that we are where we're at. And I don't know how many times I told coworkers, shake it off like a dog, shake it off like a dog,
Okay.
just shake it. It's like how dogs usually, and horses do the same thing, right? you know
You know what's really sad about this whole situation? This timeline just wanted to help this person. And it was somebody else in this person's background, I'll say it this way, that contacted the ex-husband that has caused so much traumatic damage, stress, where these two people do not know what to believe anymore, even on each other now. And this is wrong. And so my go-to is one, a hot bath, right? If I get stressed like that, right? and we talked to my guides and that was the creative Mr. Guide, right? And they travel to the Master Spirit and do that. But the thing about it is now she's gonna think about music. The way from the thoughts. That's only really clear. You're making it with them. And it's the holidays. How do we stop that from happening? So maybe we can help her. She's listening right now. The way to help her make it feel she's secure and safe in her home and that everything's going to be okay. Not worried about the other people anymore. Now she's worried about herself.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that our nervous system when we go through something like this, and even if we don't like now with you, you probably had something in your life that has not mirrored but had the situation, and so we're having a lot of triggers that are mirroring in other people's lives, like my friends, kids being in a car accident, and that triggered a little bit of me thinking about my nervous system a little bit, right? And so we really have to find a way for our nervous system to be safe, even if we're getting triggered from other people's stories,
Right.
because our nervous system grabs onto that. And, you know, I'm going to go back to breath. You know, what does a horse do when you're shaking it off like a dog, right? Or a horse, you almost have to breathe. It's
Well, and every breath is a code. So when you're breathing, a special code is coming out every time.
Mhm.
And so, it's shaking it off and doing the best that you can, something that needs even deeper than. I know when I talked to the violation she had, so fully violent, not applying for a job, not doing nothing, just doing herself,
Mhm.
and it was that's just this violent. And this person was this far to destroy something that was really bad.
Mhm.
So, really, in the story that she did not tell the victim, this first story about him. So, when somebody's violated like that, what do you think?
Well, it's not an easy place to be, you
No,
know? And I know for me, like I actually have helped a client lately who, has had bad witchery put upon this person, right? And the most thing that we talked about was, putting I have a deer in my backyard.
she's cool.
I mean, it's like literally right,
Oh,
right. I don't know if you can see
I
it.
see it. It's great.
It's right there. What does deer represent? Sorry for moving my camera.
No,
But
you're fine.
deer is about being gentle with ourselves, being calm. Now let's talk about the story of a deer. A deer is a perfect they're predators, right? From dogs to wolves to what bears, whatever, right? And the first thing that they do is when they sense something, they stop and they sense what it is. They don't run right away. They sense what it is. They're always aware. And then what they do is they run after they get, I need to flee, but they flee opposite of the situation. Most of us humans go straight into the problem, right? We go into the problem. We want to be, it's like we're going to challenge the wolf, right? It's like, you know, and so what does deer? They jump out of the way, but they don't jump. I mean, they may jump over the fence and then they stop and look,
Right.
right? They don't stay a lot of time in fear and flight. And they're another one that sometimes you see them shaking it off,
Hmm. That was
right?
perfect. That was just perfect that doing shit right
I
there.
love the universe. They couldn't have done that any better,
Yeah.
right? And it was a female deer. So it's like that feminine sense of who we are and because we all have masculine and feminine inside of us, right? So even if it's a male that's having this situation
Right.
happening,
Right.
because I'm not saying that it's us women are totally the ones that have it always happening. No,
Oh
men
no.
have it happen to them too.
Right.
And so going into this, that you have to be gentle with yourself and negotiate. Now, for me, baths wind me up. So baths for me don't necessarily always work. But the one thing we can do is actually, if you need to cloak yourself, and this is the way to work to cloak yourself, is to put like a big bubble, like picture like a
Right,
bubble
right,
gum or
right.
a half a balloon or some kind of dome of cloaking over yourself. And that can actually, if you picture it and you believe it, this is the thing, people have to believe that it's happening because
That's
energy is energy, right?
right. And I taught that years ago. My whole place is full. My house, my property, everything.
Yeah,
And I
and
make sure of it. But sometimes they, negative energies can sneak through. I had that happen with me. And just a couple days ago, I had it happen. And, we took care of it real quick and sent it back to where it came from, right?
Mhm.
And I have a little sensor on my body. I'll just say that, but then I'm going to regrow it. And when it acts up, I'm going to send it through something.
Mhm.
Because of how the guy, the angels, the pregnant, and they track it down and yeah. So I deflect it, send it back, a couple times farther back to them so they could go messing back there. But that's me, and I have permission to do that. We all lose light workers,
Mhm.
but but this person is a light worker, they can smell it. They're not a light worker, and she's okay, but she's always to the point where she wants to say, I know, I've done my job. I've done what I can do,
Mhm.
and with a certain industry to go. And I'm trying to get her to stop. She's a person. And when she stopped, within a certain industry, I would like to be using her in the house.
Well, when we come back from break, I want to tell people another way to defer the energy away from
Mhm.
us because there's so many of us that are getting energetically attacked.
Right.
And the thing is, though, we have to almost like push it out of us. And so I don't want to start this conversation, but this is a way that when my client that was having problems with the energetic
We can
attachment.
keep talking. We don't have to take this break. Stop.
Okay. So one thing that I was told by spirit is to defer. So like let's say defer the energy, the understanding. So take a situation like a rock.
Right.
Let's say a rock out of the yard and say this is my energy. If the rock wants to do it. Like so take that rock's energy and say are you willing to be the spot? And what you do is you walk it to like your borderline of your property and you sit it out there. So it's almost like a beacon that is away from your property. So any energy that is attached to this situation, people's energies, people's knowings. Now, if you do not want somebody close to you, like this client that I had, the person knew where she lived, so she couldn't hide necessarily where she lived. So, but all the energy attacks needed to go to a certain place,
Right.
right? Not her place, but a place. And so what I told her is what I was told intuitively is to have something that goes outside of her property so that whatever energy attacks are going to go to that spot because that's where your radar of your energy is. And you go out and you kind of keep don't touch it necessarily, but you go out and keep saying thank you for being here. This is where my energy for my property can be residenting at. You want to be careful not to bring your energy, but the energy of your property so that people when they sense because a lot of people can sense where people are. That's part of their skills as intuition. And but if you put the something outside of your property line, kind of like my hand going outside of my out of the window, right?
Mhm.
Of the Zoom, you put it out there, then the energy attaches to that. Now, if you don't want somebody, if somebody doesn't know where you live and you're getting energy attacked that way, and part of this is belief system. If you believe you're being going to be attacked, you're going to be attacked. But there is people who can attack in addition to that belief system, right?
Right. Right. Right.
And so what you need to do is you can even drive that rock off to another town and have it sit not necessarily like in a park or something like that. So you're not it's not even close to you and you can have that sense so that people kind of get that energetic sense that you're somewhere else than you really are. And energy is so palatable right now energy is so palatable right now, and we do have these negative energies that are trying to, and like I said last show, that I use that word just for people to understand what I'm talking about. I understand that not everything is negative and not everything is positive, but it is what it is. And so when something is more of a darker sense, or that person is more in that 3D world, or that, like my ex, who stole money from my parents, and wrote bad checks, and just
Right.
did everything, that there was just this negativeness to that person. And so I had to make sure that I threw my energy in other places so that he could not find me. And I didn't realize I did that until now, actually. you know, because it was like I just kind of scattered myself over Seattle, but I had to be, that was, my soul knew more what to do than I did, actually, at that time. But at the same time, though, I'm got to remember not to fragment myself. It's like, so it's an essence of your property or your energy than more than it is you, right?
Yeah, the one thing about our clients is very soft, very soft. And, but there's a part of her that wants to say, move, get out of the house and find that place and move. Because the ex is so close to me. He's like, this is like a 2.5 hour drive. And that was all ruffled up a bunch of stuff about her. And now it's like, well, I can't do it. It's still figure out a different thing. But, is it really worth
Well,
running?
I'm getting, and this is good for your client, maybe, is that he's the unstable one. Ask his energy to move.
I don't have permission to bring up about the ex, but yes, he is a very unstable person. And would do anything to cause havoc.
Yeah.
I can't
So
understand.
why should we do the work? I mean, yes, I know that there's people who are, in abuse situations, and I get that there are people who are in very much where, let's say that their ex is a cop and can find, I mean, it's scary, and sometimes you have to move.
Right, right.
You literally have to move to another area just to be safe.
And
Do
she's
what
moved
needs you
so
to
many
do to be
times,
safe.
pathetic. She's moved so many times, pathetic. To stop. I have to be her safe at her place, right? And now it's like that whole safety inner piece has gone. And it's like, what can she do? And the only thing I can say is to look deeper inside of yourself and find out why that had that happen.
Mhm.
Was it because of you being hurt, or was it because the other person died? And so she did nothing wrong. It was
No.
just so simple in her story to see wanting to bring it out, right? And now that's been violated. But, I think I'm going to tell her what I said. I told her to watch the show there because, you know, we're talking about this, but the emotional effect is not even physical. It's the emotional terror this is taking. And the able to be issues was broken. They were all sent by the president job. We'll have those are our job to.
Mhm.
But I think people it's a very good idea. So we're using the traumatic situation, what would be the best next time?
I didn't quite hear that. I'm sorry.
I have my business going on and everything right now. So releasing the traumatic situation.
So how do you release the traumatic situation?
For her.
Well, I know for me, and I'm going to go back to, I've lived through unforgivable moments.
Mhm. As
And
many people have.
and in those times where my nervous system was screaming at me,
Mhm.
it was literally screaming at me. And there's a part of me that actually did run. But there's a part of me that stayed. And at some point in time, we have to tell our nervous system, I can sit in this chair,
Mhm.
just like you and I are sitting in this chair right now. The
Right?
world can be falling apart around us.
Mhm.
Thank God it's not in one form.
Right. One is right.
But at this minute in time, I am safe. At this second in time, I am safe. And if you can get your nervous system to get out of the fear and flight, like I have somebody who um, is staying with me right now because she needed to be in a safe place. And
Mhm.
I told her, well, I'm hoping that now her nervous system can quiet down a little bit because she's been on go, that go thing. And when we get stirred up, this client of yours getting stirred up again, it brings back all the trauma.
It does.
We have to, for our own sake, breathe and sit in the chair and say, I'm safe at this minute in time.
Right. Right.
We're all safe. Talk to your nervous system if you need to. Nervous system, we've gone through hell and back, but we're going to be safe.
That's
We
so
don't
very
know what the future is yet. We don't know the outcome of this yet. We cannot perceive what's going to happen yet. Yes, many of us are intuitive and we're going to attach to our own story, but I can tell you my own intuition has been wrong because my mindset got involved.
yeah.
Like an example, I thought, I don't know how many different times my husband was going to die. And here he pulls into the driveway. But I know a part of him did die. A part of him did die. The part that needed to die away so he can move into his own story, right? So we do not know all what the universe has planned, but we have to say, I'm safe and I don't know all the information yet. I'm
And that's
safe.
her too. She doesn't know all the things to that, but she has to do survive and she'll talk to that nervous system all day to hold her and talk to it and walk her through it. And hopefully her friend is involved to do the same thing.
Hmm.
So that's just how it is. Let's take this quick break. Back to welcome back, everyone. Back to Brie and Natasha today. And it's so fun to have her on the show because she's just like having happiness and I do too, but when you have a client that you're working with, you kind of get kind of stuck in that mode for a second where Natasha kind of offset it for me. So I want to thank you, Natasha. I want to get to something right now. Maybe you will find out somebody has the part of your journey and your story that was not allowed to get out. How do you help that person? That's not helpful.
Well, I know for me that when I'm working with somebody who cannot tell me all the story,
Mm-hmm.
that the universe does bring up, because I trust the universe that I work with
Right, right.
and my team and that person's team,
Mm-hmm.
that I may not negotiate it, but I've had people who will sit with me for, like, let's say I'm at a fair, one of the fairs that you can go to, and I'm there, and they said, Natasha, I came with 5 questions, and within this 15 minutes you made sense of pretty much everything
Mm-hmm.
that is going on and brought it down to, I need to work on this single thing. And most of the time it's taking our empowerment back.
Right, right.
And, and like I was telling this one client that had a situation, I said, you got to get your fire on, girl. You
No,
need to get your fire on. You need to get the freaking frack out of my house. You need to get that. That's one thing is that when I work with the more dense energies, I'm gonna say, where I have to work through, like I was helping a friend clear out their house the other day, and these darker, dense energies that come from trauma, life-induced situations, right? And, the best way to get rid of them is take ownership of yourself and get your fire on. Get that blaze, get the frick out of my house. This is no longer you. You, you just get out.
No,
I mean,
it's like light my fire up, no problem.
exactly. And I can tell you every time that I got my fire on, it shut down when people were doing things. I've had guns pulled on me before,
Mhm.
and I got my fire on. And guess who turned around? We all have an inner dragon. We all have an inner being. We all have these inner knowings. And most of us shriek at we walk into the fire, but yet we don't put anything on to say we can meet with the fire, right?
Right, right. So
E-
with my client yesterday, it's just shocked me that she's just got her day fired. And today it's like, okay, it's a great talk about it. Let's go ahead and just bring out some of it. But here's the thing, on the 17th, she's coming here to talk about that.
Mhm.
Isn't that cool? That gives her a couple weeks to get through it and look through everything, what she wants to be, who she is, and why it's all happening,
Mhm.
and who the people involved with. And it's a really sad situation. It didn't have to happen. But, she got the best help. With you and I, yeah, she's got the best help. So anyway, so when the situation happened, when the truth came out about um the real truth isn't really out there about the people that did this shit, right?
Mhm.
Like I said, it wasn't their story to tell. Her moment in time. Mm, right. So now she's willing to tell her side of the truth here soon. But she just can't believe so. Prepare, right? To get herself together.
Mhm.
And then set a fire and then whatever she has to do to be able to come out and say, okay, I am the fire. This is what happened. And shame on them for what they did to her. Yeah. And that's the whole part of it is she's going to be able to speak her truth out of it and say, okay, this one,
Mhm.
I have to hold on to a little suit. Now, okay, so I want to go something else like that. Was it worth going through the situation she went through? Mhm.
What was that?
I'm sorry, the technical issues there.
Yeah.
Was it worth her going through this situation?
It was worth her going through the situation at the beginning within reason.
Yeah.
Within reason. And that's where I go back to there's some unforgivable moments when people do something that is more human that needs to happen.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm glad that there's jails. That's why I'm glad that there's karmic jail that goes on, or whatever it is, right? And because there are things like I believe that everything happens for a reason, but then not everything has to happen for a reason.
Right. So, you know how I talk about spiritual. Now, this was not in her blueprint at all that we go to. So, the guys, users, all her whole team on that regular. They also saw me in the right? They're watching the other person, which is a good thing. And then
Mhm.
they're also watching the ex-husband that said all the crap. And then they're watching the person that did all the crap. So they're all watching everything around Sister's Pond. Okay, so, but now is it worth living the inner peace back with her? I mean, I think we did a lot to help with that.
Mhm.
So I need to thank you for that.
Well, I know for me that I even include my parents passing away, that everything I'm grateful for happened in my life. And a lot of times when we go into that gratitude piece, because, does everything need to happen for a reason? Not really. I mean, I like to glean off other people's traumas so that I can learn from them, right?
Right.
So I don't have to go through it myself. because I ask for grace and ease in my life. Now, does that mean that everything is grace and ease for me? Just, you know, but the thing is though, we have to realize that we are becoming who we are because of the situations we go through.
Right, right.
And there's some people, I love the stories where somebody, let's say, has an amputee, and she, goes and becomes a public speaker to help other people who are amputees, right? You take the trauma and move it through, and that's why I tell my personal story a little bit, because then people can empathize that I get what they're I don't necessarily understand. I mean, I glean off their story, but
Right.
it's like I can have some empathy. But I want to, since we only have 5 minutes here, I want to say this, that when you go into these moments, remembering that you're going to have all the emotions, and grief is going to be one of them. And you have to go into this, I the slap in the face,
Right.
right?
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
literally slap to the soul. It's a slap to your energy field. It's a slap to everything. And when you first get information, it's a slap, and you have to go into something to find a way to be safe, right? Luckily, hopefully your client had a safe home at that time where she knew she can lock the doors, put a bubble around her, and then, like you were saying, take a bath, right? But do those things that you can say. Like I knew somebody who she called a friend, and they came and got her. So it was that make sure first off you're safe. You have to get to where you're safe. Then you got to give yourself time to integrate it. So if you can, be safe and find a way to, like, try to, like last night, my friend here, she went to sleep like at 6 o'clock at night. She went to bed. She just shut down, right? She needed to make sure she was safe, and she could just rest. And
Right.
now, and then after, you have to find a way to get proactive. You
Right.
got to be, spend a moment, spend an hour being the victim, and then be proactive. 23 hours of the day, be proactive. Give yourself that 1 hour to be the victim. Be the emotions that you need to be at the time you need to be them. But remembering, you have to pause in the minute, take a moment in the car, drive to the park, watch the water for a minute, watch kids play, find the innocence again, do these things that can support you in your life's journey. And, you know, we are the human that are going through things with the
Right.
spiritual experience. We are the spiritual being having the human experience. It's a yin yang. Oh my gosh, that yin yang symbol is so prevalent right now in my knowings. So
I think it's tree of life.
it is a tree of life.
So we don't have about 2 minutes left for the end show. So what I want to say to my client, and the victim of this, stand firm, stand in your life. Do not think you have to hide from this. But you are both are strong. The two people that did this horrendous thing to her and this other person, Creator will deal with them.
Yep.
It's not karma, it's the Creator that have to deal with. And I wouldn't want to be in issues for nothing. So thank you, Natasha, for being here
You're
this week.
welcome. I'm so grateful, and I'm looking forward to doing another show in 2 more weeks.
Well, part two is going to be a game busted. Let me just say that. So every inner piece is worth everything. You can find it no matter what decision you make. It may take you a day or two, or 3 days, or 4 days, but you'll find that inner piece of it. So God has blessed everyone, and thank you for joining Natasha and I and Goddess Emergence for your notes together and lunch together. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Goddess Emergence Show with Dr. Brie Gibbs. Tune in the first and third Wednesday of each month at 2 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com to experience spiritual pathway that addresses your physical health, emotional frequency, mental clarity, and spiritual well-being, all in perfect harmony. This isn't just an ideal. It is the comprehensive nature of the Goddess Emergence Show with Dr. Brie, a spiritual leader, healer, and trance medium who, alongside the Goddess Bell, and the Creator offer messages from the masters never shared or released on the planet. Beyond the show, Dr. Brie offers individual and group sessions at drbriegibbs.com. That's drbriegibbs.com. We hope to see you next time.